This is what $100 million looks like. 100 million $1 bills. Look at this. Okay, but watch this. This is what $100 billion looks like. Whoa. That's $100 billion. I want to show you the lifestyles of people who are worth this much money versus this much money. So first up, let's start with $100 million. My name is Scott. I started a candy company and I grew it over many years, and I eventually sold it to a big giant candy corporation. And because I started the company, I own most of it, and so I got a huge payout from this sale. Between that and a bunch of other investments over the years, I now have a net worth of $100 million. Wow, that's a big number. My primary residence is New York City, where 818 other centimillionaires live. Centimillionaires, it's like 100 millionaires. Now, I can't actually spend my fortune right now because all of it is in the stock market. The upside to that is that it grows and grows. My portfolio grows at 10% every year. So what if I just sell this $10 million return I got this year? This could fund some of my lifestyle. Ugh, but look at all these taxes. All in all, it's like 37% of that $10 million. I guess it still leaves me with $6.3 million to spend. And look, I didn't even have to touch my portfolio. I'm still worth $100 million. My budget for a house is anywhere between $8 and $15 million, which sources told us is common at this level. And even though I live in one of the most expensive and crowded cities on earth, with my budget, I can find a pretty sick house, I think. This nice apartment in Midtown Manhattan. The listing tells me that this is the epitome of refined living, a superior pre-war white glove cooperative. What does that mean? I mean, this is looking like a pretty great house. It's got this super romantic painting above the mantle, and in addition to my real library, I also get a bathroom that kind of looks like one. By the way, this is only my primary residence. It's not my only home. I've got a couple vacation homes around the country and the world. This one in Miami, which is increasingly a playground for the ultra-rich, and this one in the south of France. And both of these have full-time housekeepers. Let's talk about my vacations. I visit these houses a couple times a year, but for my other vacations, I'll maybe go to the Hamptons because I love to watch polo. There's this great polo match in July, and I buy a VIP ticket that will cost me only $3,500. Remember when I showed you I could sell off the returns that I made this year from my stocks and still come out with millions of dollars of cash to spend? Well, I didn't really like having to sell off all those returns and then have to pay like over 30% in taxes. Me and everyone else you'll see in this video don't like to sell our portfolio, our assets, to get cash, because that triggers all of these taxes. It gives us less power in the companies we own. Instead, we like to get cash through a bunch of other ways, using our vast fortune. My favorite trick is to go to the bank and to ask for a loan. Wait, what? I'm a super rich guy. Why do I need a loan? Well, let me show you. The bank will loan me a lot of money if I put my huge investment portfolio up for collateral, meaning they can come after it if I don't pay the loan back, or if I default or something. Okay, how much can I get in a loan? Well, according to the bank UBS, I could borrow up to 85% of the value of my investment portfolio, which remember is $100 million. So I could potentially get a loan for $85 million. Another bank, Merrill Lynch, says that they will give at least 50% of the value of your portfolio. But regardless, we're talking tens of millions of dollars that I can borrow and spend. And guess what? I pay zero taxes on this money because it's not income, it's technically debt. Okay, wait, but it's a loan. So I'm accruing interest, right? This isn't free money. I'm gonna have to pay it back someday and likely have to pay it back with post-tax money. So it's not free money. What's the deal here? Why am I doing this? Well, according to a lot of good reporting from the Wall Street Journal, people making $100 million or more can get quoted on an interest rate as low as 0.87%. Super low. In reality, today, under these conditions and with my net worth, let's just be really and conservative and say that my interest rate on the loan is more like 5.9%. It's a lot higher than 1%. But watch what happens. This allows me to not have to touch my investment portfolio. I don't have to take out that $10 million of stocks and pay a bunch of taxes. And that is growing at 10% a year. Way more than the interest on this loan. Now watch what happens over time. this is the value of that $10 million left in my portfolio, and this is how much I owe on the loan I took out. That's a nice looking graph. My wealth is growing way faster than the interest on my loan is accruing. So this tax-free debt thing is awesome, and it's one way that I will turn my net worth into spendable cash without having to sell off any of my stocks in my portfolio. I can buy and travel and live how I want. But what separates me from the big dogs who we're about to see is yachts and private jets, but also influence in society. I do some donating. I donate a bunch of money to politics. I gave $900,000 to a PAC that supports the candidates that I hope will win. I also belong to the invite-only Aman Club, which I had to pay a $200,000 initiation fee for. My membership fee is $15,000 a year, and I get to rub shoulders with people way richer than me, like Bill Gates, and even the Kardashians show up every once in a while. But this isn't real influence. I'm kind of paying for access. It's nothing like we're gonna see once we cross the $1 billion mark. All right, now let's 10x this and get to $1 billion. Forbes says that there's about 3,000 people on Earth with this kind of money. Hi, my name is Javier. I was a moderately wealthy guy for a while, but I randomly wrote a $200,000 check to a couple of young guys in Silicon Valley who had a startup idea. They gave me 4% equity in their company, and then their company blew up and is now worth $80 billion. After some dilution, my $200,000 check is now worth $1 billion. That's my net worth. So how do I get liquid cash to spend from my vast fortune? Well, I don't want to sell any of my stake in the tech company I invested in because I have voting rights. I can control how it is. In fact, like Scott, I don't want to sell any of my portfolio for cash. Instead, I will generate money other ways. I'll go back to the old debt trick that we saw with Scott. Even if I get a loan that's 2% of my vast portfolio, I'm looking at $20 million of tax-free cash, all without having to touch my portfolio, which continues to grow in the market at 10% a year. That $20 million that I didn't have to take out of my portfolio is just in the market, is growing nice and fast. And look, after 5 years, my portfolio has grown way more than the interest on this loan. I can easily pay back the loan right now and still have extra to spare. Okay, so let's talk houses. Where do I live? Of course, New York City, where there's more billionaires than anywhere else in the world. I live up on the Upper East Side. Look at this beautiful home. 6 bedrooms, 17,000 square feet Manhattan apartment. It cost me $57.5 million. This was actually 2 huge multi-million-dollar houses that they combined into one. Just cause. It's hard to know what to spend my money on that Scott can't. Like, we can both buy a $91,000 shirt, which sales tax alone on this puppy is like $8 grand. $9 million painting. There's a few things that are out of reach for Scott that I can buy, maybe like this nearly $3 million bottle of whiskey. What I can do at this level is pay for hyper exclusive experiences, like paying my favorite band, the Eagles, to fly in and play me a show. I'll pay millions of dollars for this, and in fact, they've negotiated only playing Hotel California one time, but it was totally worth it. I bought an NBA team. I'm able to write these players off as depreciating assets, even though the team is growing and making money. All of this helps my tax rate be lower than the players who play for me, and even lower than the guy serving beer in the stands. ProPublica did a great analysis on that, by the way. But yeah, anyway, all of this is legal. Like, I'm not breaking any rules. And honestly, it's really fun. And look, I have the best seats in the house. Oh, and by the way, I still pay a lot of taxes. My businesses pay corporate taxes and income taxes and payroll taxes and property taxes and sales taxes. I contribute massively in dollar terms, and my businesses generate huge amounts of tax revenue and jobs, and I took a risk in building my wealth. And when I sell or die, the government takes another giant cut. I'm paying plenty. And in fact, I'm paying so much that I'm gonna use some of my influence to try to change that. I've got my eye on a Senate candidate. I've contributed $20 million to his campaign to get him reelected, and he won. Yes! It's a few months later, and Congress is working on a bill. It could have big ramifications for my business and therefore my net worth. And so I'm gonna call in my favor to the senator who I donated so much money to help reelect. I need him to insert 8 words into this massive bill to allow my business to qualify for a huge deduction. He does it. Last second, and I just saved hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. 20 million bucks to get this guy elected, in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars in savings? That sounds like a good investment. Thanks, Congress. It's actually starting to be more and more about buying influence in society and politics. But this is just the beginning. Let's see what happens when we 100x this. Okay, things are about to get kind of nuts because we're about to 100x this pile. To go from 1 billion to $100 billion. There's less than 20 people who have this much net worth or more. They're almost all Americans who started technology companies. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has anywhere from 4 to 5 times this much, depending on the day. And at this point, there's no way I can convince you how much money this is. Like, you would have to combine the incomes of over 7.5 million Americans toiling away, earning the median salary of $63,000 a year. 7.5 million people earning the amount of money controlled by one guy. Hi, my name is Bradley. I founded a technology company decades ago, and it is now one of the most valuable companies on earth. I still run it actively, and most of my $100 billion fortune is in the form of a huge amount of stock in this company. How do I even think about where to live? I could go the direction of Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani and build my own personal 27-story skyscraper, complete with a hanging garden and a 6-floor garage where I can store 168 cars. Or I could collect a portfolio of trophy homes all over the world. I'll buy this one in Florida for $173 million. It's got 33 bedrooms and 39 bathrooms. That is a lot of toilets. I'll buy a spot in London, but I'll make sure to buy all the properties around it, so I've got a lot of privacy. That one cost me $202 million. I'll grab a bunch of property along this coastline in Malibu. I'll buy this private golf course next to my 19,000 square foot mansion. My big portfolio of houses around the world adds up to about $2 billion worth of homes. But if I'm like Larry Ellison, whose homes all of those I just mentioned are, this isn't even 1% of my net worth. But I don't want to just buy homes. Maybe I want to buy a social media company. I'm really into influence right now, and influencing the media is a great way to influence society. And this is where I can take the loan thing that we talked about earlier to a whole new level. Yes, I could sell a bunch of my stock to get cash to buy the social media company. Or I can do what Elon Musk did and take out a giant loan. Billions of dollars that I don't have to pay taxes on, that is based on my vast fortune. Musk was about to take out a loan of $12.5 billion, but then ended up taking about half that to buy Twitter. And this is what's wild, is the loan thing, at this level, I can plan to just do this forever. I never have to pay off these loans. I never have to sell off any of my stock. I could keep paying down the interest so it doesn't compound, but even if I don't, my fortune grows way faster than this debt accrues. And the real benefit of this happens when I get close to the end of my life. It's been decades. I have all these loans. They've grown, accrued interest. My fortune has grown way faster. And at the end of my life, I could sell a bunch of my portfolio, get a bunch of cash, and pay off all my loans before I die, so I don't leave my children saddled with all my loans. But I don't want to do that, because I would have to pay a huge amount of taxes if I did. And if you haven't noticed, I don't like taxes. My goal now, as I get close to the end of my life, is to set my family up to inherit my vast fortune in the most advantageous way possible. My portfolio is a vast fortune that is mostly loaded with unrealized gains, meaning this is all money that has grown in the market. I haven't paid taxes on it yet because I haven't taken it out. The moment I take it out, I have to pay taxes. But what I can do is when I die, I can give this giant fortune to my daughter, let's say. And the moment I give it to her, boom, the clock resets. She inherits that fortune, and suddenly, it's as if she has zero gains. Meaning she could sell this entire portfolio on day one and pay no taxes. Those unrealized, untaxed gains disappear, never to be taxed. And yes, there is a big estate tax that I have to pay when I die, but my army of wealth managers have figured out a way to buy an insurance policy that will pay that tax for me. Wow, well that was quite the journey. If there's one thing I've learned on my journey from 100 million to $100 billion, it's that wealth begets more wealth. When you have wealth and ownership of assets in a capitalistic system, you become impervious. You can build a fortress of wealth that just keeps growing. And then once you have that fortress, it allows you to influence government and policy and media that then serves your interests to get more wealth. All while opportunities, wages, and resources stagnate for the majority. This isn't a broken system. This is a system working exactly how it was designed by policy choices and decisions. And it might strike you as unfair. I think it is, but I also think it's really dangerous. It's exactly the type of concentration that creates a politics of grievance and anger and resentment and hopelessness, all so that a few people can have access to their fancy boats and exclusive parties.